Hello and welcome to PrepEve, where we revolutionize how you prepare for IELTS. Today we'll be dealing with yet another kind of question that you would encounter in your reading section. Yes, today we'll be dealing with summary completion, note completion, flowchart completion, right? Let's understand what the examiner is trying to assess while they're giving you the summary, note, table or flowchart completion kind of questions. So they are assessing your ability to understand details as well as the main ideas of the passage. Yes, they're assessing both of them, but what's the way of assessing it? They assess it by checking whether you understand which type of word would fit that blank or which kind of word would fit that gap. So let's have a look at how these questions would be. So in case of the summary question, you would be given a paragraph and there would be blanks in between that paragraph. So this is, for example, the paragraph. This could be the blank number 1 and sentences continuing, blank number 2, 3. Yeah, so something like this. There might be 5 blanks in total, and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Alright, so here there are wordings, and these are the blanks that are to be filled by you by referring to the question, or in certain cases they also give you a list of words from where you can fill your blanks. So here, if there are 5 blanks, they might give you 7 or 10 words that some of which might fit in here. So you need to have a look at these words and fill them up in these blanks, or you might have to go back and look into the reading passage and try to figure out which word would fit in these blanks. So this is your summary completion question. Similarly, note completion would have notes in them. So they would give you notes. So they would be notes and you have to complete those notes. So these would be shorthand writings and you have to answer them. In case of table, the same thing would be written in a tabular format. So there must be a table with columns and rows, and you have to tell what each one of them would have in. For example, here if the passage is about different researchers or name of different scientists and their discoveries, for example. So here it would be the serial number, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here you have your name of the researcher or name of the scientist, and here you have their discoveries or inventions. Alright, so here maybe in this blank they have given you the name, and here you have to write down the discovery, that's the blank, and here it might be the discovery is given and you have to tell what would be the name of the scientist. So I hope that's visible in the video. If not, you can take a screenshot and zoom it in. Yes, so this is how the tabular format would look like, and then we have the flowchart. So flowchart is something which has arrows in it. It's a chart that gives a flow or direction to what starts when and ends where. So for example, let's assume that there's this passage in which they're telling you the steps to make coffee or tea. So I know it's a very silly one, but just for understanding purpose. So we have the first step written here, then we have another arrow, then we have another step here. So this is basically half of the words would be written here with a blank here, and then completion. So for example, this could be pour water into the utensil. So this blank could have pour in it, right? So the answer could be pour. So next step would be, yet again, this is step 1, this is step 2, and then there will be step 3, and in the end you have step 4 where your tea or coffee or your particular beverage is ready. So this is how your flowchart question would look like. So in case of summary, it's more like fill in the blanks in the form of a paragraph. You have a few sentences which have blanks in it and you have to fill those blanks. Here you could have to find the answer from the passage directly, or you might be given a list of words. Similar would be the case in case of note making or notes. Tabular form, I've shown you the structure. The same summary question can be twisted into a tabular form and also a flowchart. So flowchart is usually steps. Alright, so I hope you have a clarity of how the question would look like. Now let's move on and understand the strategy. Some key factors that you need to keep in mind before you attempt such questions is that number one, the summary, note, table or flowchart is created by keeping in mind one part of the passage. More often than not, they would not discuss or summarize the entire passage, but just one part of it. So figure out which that part of that passage is and start focusing on it. Alright, first and the foremost thing is to read the instructions carefully. Yes, there are two kinds of questions in which one of them would have the list of options or probable answers given to you already. The other kind of same questions would be in which they would not give you any options and you would have to identify the answers from the passage on your own. So in case if they have not given you the list of options, you would be given the instructions. In the instructions, they would say no more than 2 words, no more than 1 word, no more than 3 words or numbers. So these are the instructions that you have to keep in mind before you start answering the question, because if you exceed the word limit, you will be penalized. In fact, you would not be scored correctly, even if your answer is correct. So keep this thing in mind. You do not want to make this blunder, silly one though. So do not do this. Read the instructions carefully and adhere to the word limit. Number 2, try to predict the answer and underline the keywords. Yes, you need to underline the keywords in the question, in the summary, what are the keywords, and try to look for them in your passage. Also predict the answer. Now how do you predict an answer? You have a sentence, you have a blank after it, so you know that probably a noun would be placed there, a verb, or maybe the blank would be preceded by an, and then you're sure that the answer would start from a vowel and not from a consonant. So if the options are to, car and apple, so you know that the answer would be apple and not car, right? So this is how you can predict the answer. Look for synonyms and paraphrases of the keyword. So once you have underlined the keyword, look for their synonyms and paraphrased versions in your passage, and once you locate them, you are close to your answer. Now you will be able to figure out what fits in your blank. Alright, so next is check if the answer fits the sentence in a grammatically correct manner. Now this is one major thing that you need to keep in your mind. Yes, you might think that apple is the answer, but whether it is apple or apples. Now here it's an, therefore it would be apple and not apples. So singular and plural, is it fitting in the sentence grammatically? So that needs to be your priority. You need to figure this out, not just in this question, but all the questions, even in your listening test. So your answers should fit the sentence in a grammatically correct manner. They should be grammatically correct, especially in questions which have fill in the blanks, which have complete sentences. Do not spend too much time on one question. Obviously, you should not waste a lot of time figuring out the answer of one question. Move on to the next one. Come and visit the one that you left earlier later on when you have sufficient time instead of wasting time. Alright, the next one is, if you get a list of options, eliminate the ones which do not fit well in the sentence. So this was when you are not given any options. This strategy is to be followed when there are instructions given to you and you have to identify your answer on your own from the passage. However, if they have given you a list of words or options to choose from, then what is the strategy? In that case, you have, for example, say 5 blanks in your questions. They'll be giving you 7 to 10 options. Yes, they give you extra options to confuse and distract you. So if you get a list of options, eliminate the ones which do not fit well in the sentence. So there would be definitely certain words which you know are not going to fit in the blank one because it's not making any sense. Number two, you can also eliminate those words which are not grammatically fitting in that sentence, because you won't write "and car", so you know that option is definitely getting eliminated. So you eliminate that, and with the leftover options after eliminating, you can use your brain and locate the answer and try to fit in the best one. So this is how you'll be able to figure out what works and what does not. So grammar is one key thing that would work here. If there is, you read the entire sentence to see whether it is grammatically correct, whether there's a flow, proper flow, and yes, that's about it for this particular video and this particular question. So in case of summary, note, table, flowchart, these are similar to each other, just the format changes. In your summary you have a paragraph, in your note you have set of notes, in your table you have a tabular form with empty cells, and in your flowchart you have a flowchart with arrows that is showing the sequence from beginning to end, stages or sequence of events, and you just have to complete the blanks by picking up words from the passage or the list of words that is provided to you by the examiner itself in the question booklet. So it's pretty simple. Be sure that you don't make such silly mistakes of not having a look at the grammatical aspect, and also be very careful that you write the amount of words that they have asked you to. Writing one word more would make it an incorrect answer even if the core answer is correct. So have a nice day. Thank you so much and subscribe to our channel.